Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Aaron Lapidus, Vice President of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in sunny, freezing cold. It's almost the end of March. Why? Downtown Olivet, Missouri. Dad, are you with us yet?
Yes, I am, I think.
Take it away.
I'm a 40-year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined, as you can tell, by my very able crew, my daughter, Erin Lapidus, who is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and her husband, my son-in-law, Robert Markham, also a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a real game plan, a step-by-step strategy that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to create a reliable stream of income in the amount you want, when you want it, so you can do all the things you want to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Good morning again in Radio Land. Thanks so much for taking your time and tuning in with us this morning. We've got 2 hours of fun. And the fun really starts with your phone calls and your questions. Our phone lines are open, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And while you're thinking about these questions, we do want to let you know that there are lots of ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button. Request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Ask us a question. If it's during the show, we'll try to answer it live on the air for you. If not, you'll receive an email from us within 24 to 48 hours of your question. On the lower left-hand side of the screen, there's a pop-up box that appears. It says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and we are rounding out the month of March. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about what is in our March newsletter.
You're right. We're just zipping through this month, and we've got some great articles in the March 2024 newsletter you're certainly going to want to read. First one being, why do workers take less paid time off than they can? 90% of workers said having paid time off is extremely important, yet 50% said they take less time than they're entitled to. This article breaks down some of the reasons for that, and, as I was thumbing through the infographic here, 16% said they think they might risk losing their job if they took the allotted time that they were given, if they actually took advantage of it. And 12% said their manager or supervisor actively discourages them taking the time that's entitled to them.
So that's like 28% of people are scared to take time off. That's too bad.
You're stealing my thunder. It's almost a third are like scared to take what's entitled to them, and it's It's unfortunate.
It is, because I kind of look at this the same way as if you are not making contributions to your retirement account, if you're not taking advantage of HSA contributions that you might have a match with your employer, that you are leaving a piece of your compensation on the table. If you're not taking your vacation time or your time off, hopefully you don't have to use sick time. But most companies have moved into flex time, where it's sick, vacation bundled together. You just have a certain amount of time off. If you're not taking that time as well, you really are kind of leaving your compensation on the table.
I mean, to have a manager actively discourage, well, we give you 7 days, but you've already taken 3. I'd be like, yeah, and?
I don't think it's that direct. I think it's kind of like, what do you want your day off for now?
I would love to see the cross tabs on that 12%. Like, just how active are they in the discouraging process? But that's it's a great article. And it's got a nice infographic there, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. And our next one, beware of these life insurance beneficiary mistakes. Generally, life insurance proceeds aren't taxed, but there are exceptions. And the most common involves having 3 different people as the owner, the insured, and the beneficiary. This unholy triangle could create a taxable event. This article breaks down some things to consider to avoid that. And as an aside to that, it's never a bad idea to sit down with a professional to figure out the best way to structure these policies. They can be a little bit complicated, so a second pair of eyes never hurts.
Absolutely.
And our third article, individual bonds versus bond funds. What's the difference? Bond funds and individual bonds can both provide an income stream, but there are important nuances and subtleties between them. This is a great article comparing and contrasting the two and giving you some insight into how they are the same and, more importantly, how they are different.
Let's keep it rolling.
And our last article, why family businesses should have a succession plan. For family businesses, succession plans are designed to ensure an orderly transfer of ownership and leadership to the next generation. But only 34% of family businesses have a robust, documented, and communicated plan in place. This article lays out a roadmap one might consider when putting a succession plan in place.
We call it the Coach's Corner. It's easy for you to access. Just log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on that floating icon that appears on the lower left-hand side of the screen. There are also a few other ways you can keep in contact with us during the week. We have a Facebook page, JBL Financial. Follow us, or friend us, I guess. And we also have a Twitter, also JBL Financial. We try to post interesting articles, local happenings, financial planning tips and tricks throughout the month.
Not getting into any Twitter slap fights, I hope.
Certainly not. I mean, I would love to be as clever as the Burger Kings. Was it Wendy's or Burger King? I can't remember which one that had a few very clever responses.
Yeah, all of those fast foods have kind of caught on to that. They're all like trying to one up one another in that.
We're family friendly here at JBL Financial.
The Steakums one was hilarious. Like he taking pot shots at pot pies and such. Insane.
Well, they are open on Sundays.
Yes, they are. And our phone lines are open right now, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. And just a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, we create a game plan for them that have the goals of creating a fun, hopefully financially successful, and worry-less or worry-free, if you want to call it, retirement. So that's a lot of fun to do. And we do see many of our listeners during the week, and we love to do that. And setting up a coaching session is pretty easy. You can either give our office a call at 314-863-0008 or go to our website, hit the Contact Us section, and we're happy to answer that. Our staff will follow up with you to arrange a convenient time to visit our world headquarters in downtown Olivet, Missouri.
A global location.
Exactly. Easy to do. We're actually 2 blocks west of Highway 170 at the Olive Street, or actually the Olive Boulevard exit.
That's right.
Cool. Very good. So I guess while we're waiting for your phone calls and your texts this morning, I think it's time that we maybe go to our Rock Star of the Week segment. We haven't done that in a while.
We haven't, and we haven't heard from Joe and Sally in a while. We've been much more creative with the names.
Let's get no, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're right, that we haven't, but I did receive an email. It somehow managed to slip through the server under Aaron's nose here. And
well, before we get to that,
sure,
we got texters that are already chomping at the bit, so we're going to have to hold on Joe and Sally for a moment.
Yes.
Right.
Our first catch of the day. And our texter writes, are there any market triggers that would encourage a person to do a rebalance outside of, say, their typical rebalance schedule? That's an excellent question.
Market triggers. See, the first thing that I would always say is that when you have rules, sticking to them, luck really becomes the residue of design, which is being mechanical about your rebalancing, I think gives you the best opportunity to take advantage of the market. I wouldn't necessarily call if we were making changes outside of a normal rebalance. I don't know if I would necessarily call that a rebalance anymore. It would just be maybe a reallocation. It could be that maybe you find yourself, one of the examples might be if you are over-concentrated in, let's say in this particular market environment, you are highly concentrated in tech stocks because they have seen the largest run-up, so your portfolio has become out of balance. Maybe we're not quite to the time in which you would rebalance. You may say you want to take a little bit out of the tech side of the market and move it, or we would call that the growth side of the market, and potentially move that into value to rebalance both sides of the S&P 500.
And I would just... No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I would just piggyback on that and saying having the rules and, more importantly, having the discipline to stick to those rules is really important. So, we want to de-emphasize, there's going to be a government shutdown, there's going to be an election, or, what is the Fed going to do? These are known knowns that we know are out there, and, we can't be jumping from the pot to the frying pan every time, a news event happens.
Yes, I think that you guys are both making a very good point where we would prefer to be a little more mechanical than having animal spirits drive us in these things. But I think something that was important that Aaron was alluding to was what's called sector rotation. So certainly you can have in your basic mix, we'll call it, let's just say you're in a moderate mix of 60% to 70% stocks or stock funds and 30% cash, fixed income, etc. Wanting to keep that balance, that mix the same, but to maybe taking profits in an area, as an example, Aaron said, that may have run up, and then maybe rotating into another sector. So as an example, there is a seasonality that happens with tech. And at the same time, there also is seasonality in many cases with oil and gas. So I would certainly say that, in the winter, as we're getting towards the winter, usually if we're expecting bad snowstorms, whatever it would be, energy prices consumption tends to go up during those type of peak times. So I don't know if I would necessarily time it that quickly, but taking profits is never a bad thing. And frankly, your IRA, your 401k accounts are really perfect to do this because we can certainly rotate money between different sectors and not have any taxes in this because you aren't having any distributions being made. So
that's always a good thing.
That was a good question.
Great question. So Joe and Sally, tell us a little bit about them, Rob.
Well, we got an email from Joe, and Joe says, I'm 62. My wife is 62. We would both like to retire in the next 3 years. We have tried to save as well as we could up until now. We are ready to focus on planning for retirement. We have listened to you and Aaron for several years now and like the way you approach the subject and the information you've given. Could you talk about what the next steps are?
Oh, this is a great question. It just kind of sets us up to have almost a coaching session on the air. So first, of course, thank you for the kind comments. We promise we didn't pay them. We like to think of retirement planning in two pieces. The first thing is the science. That's really the math behind your retirement game plan. And it essentially answers the question that most people, the questions that most people have when they come to see us. Have I accumulated enough to retire, and how do I make this all work? So, have you accumulated enough? How do we create that cash flow game plan for you? That is the math behind your retirement. And then the second piece is the art, and that's really what we don't spend a lot of time talking about on the radio because we can't, which is how we invest money. What is our investment management style?
Yes, and also, how do we create a portfolio that's designed to create the results that you need to make your math work? So, what we like to do is we like to start at the end. As you know, we think of cash flow in the term of faucets. So let's start with this situation, talk a little bit about Joe and Sally generically, and then I also go through the math.
So Joe works for a major aerospace contractor that I'm sure we'd all be familiar with, and Sally is a nurse at a local hospital. They've accumulated $1.7 million in retirement assets, and they have $110,000 in savings and other investments.
So when we sat down with them, and after having a long discussion, we determined that they need approximately $7,000 per month after tax to make their life work. We're not going to go into some specific details, and in many cases, for some folks that may be a low number. For some folks, they may say, hey, that's a high number. But Joe and Sally currently do have a mortgage, which they're going to be getting rid of in a few years. So their cash flow is certainly going to change at that point. So let's talk again about how we do this. Number one, the first question was, how much money are you saving outside of your retirement plan contributions? And they basically told us that the answer was zero. We're not saving any money.
And an easy way to figure that out for everyone at home is how much does your savings account or your checking account grow throughout the year? Does it increase? That means you might be saving a little, and it could be unintentional. You're just not spending everything that you are bringing home. Is it staying the same, which means you're essentially spending what is your net paycheck every month? Or are you seeing a depletion, which means you might be, in some cases, spending a little bit more than what you're bringing home every month?
So,
why don't you continue?
In this case, we know that they're spending $7,000, and we have to increase that by 20% to account for taxes. So that leaves them with a total of $8,400 that they're going to need. But they luckily have some sources. Joe's pension is $2,000. Joe's Social Security at normal retirement age is going to be $3,000, and Sally can piggyback on his with the spousal benefit for half of that for $1,500. So we add up all those sources, and we come up with $6,500 when those faucets are turned on. But that still is going to leave them with about a $1,900 a month deficit.
So if we take that $1,900 a month and we multiply it over a 12-month period, that means that annually they are short just about $23,000, $22,800 a year. So we know that if we have a lump sum of capital and we want to live off of the interest and the earnings, or we want to give ourselves the best opportunity to live off the interest and the earnings of that capital without depleting it over time, we want to pull about 4%. So we're going to take that $22,800 number and divide it by 4%, which means we need about $570,000 in order to maintain that income over a long period of time. Dad likes to refer to that as the milk money.
Exactly. But what if Joe and Sally wanted to retire today?
And they're only 62.
So we have to make up 3 years of not only the $8,400 that they need to make their life work, including taxes, but we also had to add another $1,200 in healthcare costs as well.
That's right, and we're adding $1,200 a month in healthcare costs for Joe and Sally between 62 and 65 because they aren't Medicare eligible yet. When we get to Medicare eligibility, those costs decrease substantially. Essentially, they decrease to the point where most people pay those expenses out of normal cash flow, depending upon their prescriptions and medications, or their needs, which is why we have Frank, our Medicare coach, to help us out with that when it's time to make that transition.
So we've got $9,600 a month that we have to scale up for 36 months. That leaves us with a total of $345,000.
All right, so that means that if we set aside $345,000 in a separate account, and just drained it over the next 3 years, didn't assume any growth, we know that they would have enough to make those to bridge that gap from 62 to 65 years old. We have to add that to the original milk money number, which is $570,000, because we know that's the long-term need that they're going to have. So essentially what we're trying to do here is take the most conservative approach, because we know that if they do decide to work with us, we are going to have all of their funds invested. However, saying, we're going to assume no growth on these funds over that bridge period of time gives us the most conservative numbers, which means that they need about $915,000 in order to make their lives work.
If they've got $1.7 million, whee,
rock stars.
They're rock stars.
That's right. So let's take a few minutes before we take our first break, and we've got a few text questions on deck that we are going to get to after our first break of the hour. But what about Sally's Social Security benefit?
Well, Sally's benefit is 50% of Joe's benefit at normal retirement age.
Well, that's the spousal benefit is 50%, right? But her benefit was less than 50%, which is why we thought the spousal would make more sense.
Absolutely. Therefore, Sally might want to consider waiting until Joe elects his Social Security benefit so she can elect the higher spousal amount.
That's a great point. And the cool thing for Joe and Sally is they are both the same age. Now, obviously, they weren't born on the exact same day and the exact same month of the year, but we have a lot shorter of amount of time to wait between when Joe turns his Social Security benefit on and when Sally turns hers on. The key is that Joe needs to have elected his benefit and receive it in order for Sally to elect the spousal benefit, which is going to be 50% of Joe's benefit, but it's also based on her age, right? So she needs to be normal retirement age in order to get that full 50%.
Correct. And what if Joe elected his Social Security before normal retirement age or after, and even say he waited till 70? How would that affect his game plan?
So for every year that Joe waits to take his Social Security benefit, it's going to increase by 8% until he gets to age 70. The inverse is true if he elects early. For every year that he elects earlier than his normal retirement age, which in his case is 66, he's going to see an 8% discount. So
we just need a larger milk money bucket. But that, again, is okay because they've amassed $1.7 million.
That's right. So the nice thing here is that we can design a game plan, meaning we can say, our initial goal is to have them both turn their Social Security benefits on at 66. If Joe decides he wants to elect earlier than 66, we just need to account for the fact that we have to reduce that fixed income component of his portfolio, increasing the amount of distributions that he is taking from his investment accounts. So he potentially could reduce his benefit up to 32% by taking it at 62.
If he waits till age 70, his benefit will grow to over $3,800, less milk money needed later, but more drainage now.
And that's why it's nice that Social Security really is a flexible election, meaning you'll be able to start receiving your benefit within 3 months of making that election. So we can design the game plan, but then we could always make alterations to it based on a number of circumstances. One could be either good or bad performance in the market that does sway people's opinion as to when they'd like to take their Social Security benefit. If the market's not performing as well, maybe they'd like to wait because they know they're getting the 8% increase on that benefit. It could be Joe or Sally's health that might make a difference. They both are in good health now. However, if someone becomes ill or they don't feel as though they have as much longevity in their life based on their family life expectancy, they may say they want to take a little bit earlier so they can collect more of that benefit.
Health, longevity, level of comfort, these are all things to consider when putting together the game plan and adjusting it as you go.
Yes, and what's important here is that there aren't any real wrong decisions that we're discussing. And again, just to sort of emphasize what has already been said here, the primary reason, at least in my mind, that they would look at maybe putting off taking Social Security benefits past normal retirement age is maybe the situation where we haven't discussed this until here, but Joe does have a pension. If he was to elect a pension benefit that wasn't 100% to a survivor, if he predeceases Sally, well, then that benefit's going to be reduced. And we know that if it shows death, what happens is Sally will be losing, or she'll lose her Social Security benefit by then electing to take Joe's. And so her benefit would increase to Joe's. But so she's had a loss of, one source of income for Social Security, and the second one being also a loss of pension income. That might be an important reason for them to put it off. Now, this is a feel-good thing for them because we know that from a milk money point of view, they need $900,000 if they do it today. If they wait, they only need $570,000. Well, they've got $1.7 million. So it's a comfort zone thing. So not all again, there aren't necessarily any bad decisions. And again, what they're going to be doing is making these decisions in the moment. And fortunately, they do have the flexibility to make some changes, especially in their cash flow in the future as they need to, depending on how they feel.
And you also mentioned when we first started talking about Joe and Sally, Dad, that they have not a pension, they have a mortgage that will eventually sunset because they will have paid it off, which could substantially change and will substantially change the amount of income that they need every month. So that could be an additional factor in saying we can wait to take our Social Security benefit because we know that $8,400 a month need is going to come down by at least $1,000 a month for our mortgage payment. So there are a lot of factors involved in everyone's decision making, but the math always ends up being the same.
Sunsetting obligations are always nice because they're just short term in the scope of your retirement, and once they fall off the books, your game plan or your game management math becomes a lot easier.
Absolutely. I think we should take our first break of this hour. When we get back, we have a couple of great text questions on deck, so please keep adding to those texts, 84126 on the text line, or give us a call, 314-931-5877. We'll be right back after these messages.
You're selling your home, and I want to buy it. This is Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I am ready to pay top dollar for your home. No contingencies, no inspections, no monkey business. I buy your home no matter the condition or location, and you walk away with cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867, 314-283-0867, or at robankproperties.com. That's ROBANG Properties.com.
Hi, it's David Sherwood of the Inside Out Show and president of Sherwood's Forest on Barrett Station Road, just south of Manchester. Spring planting season is here now. We are fully stocked with the area's largest selection of flowering trees, Japanese maples, evergreens, and shade trees. Choose from dogwoods, redbuds, magnolias, and cherries to provide springtime fragrance and blooms. At Sherwood's Forest, you'll also find hundreds of green giants and junipers to screen thy neighbor. Enjoy the beauty of spring-blooming shrubs like azaleas, lilacs, viburnums, and large blooming perennials like Helleborus. We use Espoma's Biotone Starter Plus in all of our plantings. So head to the forest, Sherwood's Forest, 2651 Barrett Station Road, or check out our inventory at sherwoods-forest.com. Sherwood's Forest is open 7 days a week.
Home and garden showplace, making beautiful gardens.
The Big 550 KTRS is live, local, and so are you, which is why you should shop local. Your money stays local, creating jobs that are local, local customers in local stores. Triad Bank is also local, a big part of the St. Louis community, and has teamed up with KTRS to present Shop Local Business Salutes throughout the day. After all, we live here too. Listen for Shop Local Business Salutes, sponsored by Triad Bank. Your business, your family, your bank. And the Big 550 KTRS, live and local.
Nestled in the heart of the Hill neighborhood is the Hill Cigar Company. Stop on in, see the selection of cigars the Hill Cigar Company has to offer. While you're in the store, check out their cigar lounge in the back. Whether you're new to cigars or an aficionado, the Hill Cigar Company is the perfect shop for you. The Hill Cigar Company at 5360 Southwest Avenue. Give them a call at 314-776-4455. A cigar for every connoisseur.
Hey, starting long before I did, Kuna Food Service actually opened up their doors in 1918. Now, I started working shortly after that. A company you can't buy food from, but if you've got a local restaurant that you love, you owe Kuna a thank you. They've helped those restaurants throughout all kinds of issues of price hikes on the food, the pandemic, redesigning menus and dishes and whole restaurants. So when you enjoy a meal, remember to thank Kuna. Kuna Food Service. Online, KunaFoodService.com. Great concert put in the books. Griffin House. Maybe not a household name yet, but he will be. Opening for Jewel, opening for John Mellencamp, and an intimate evening with him is planned April 9th at Persimmon Woods Country Club. Only 120 tickets available, so it will be an intimate evening to be sure, and it benefits the Down Syndrome Association of Greater St. Louis. Find out more by calling 636-300-5712 or go to griffinhousemusic.com for tickets.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
On retirement, it's 9:37. About halfway through hour number one. Hour number two is going to be fun. We're going to talk about healthcare as we always do, but more importantly, we're going to answer your phone calls and your texts. 314-931-5877 or 84126 on the KTRS text line.
And we've got
I was going to say, I just want to make one quick comment before we get started. You know, I don't know. Maybe we ought to rename this the Algebra Show, because
that would make it even more boring.
I think you're right. It's true, but you know, we love to go through coaching sessions that we're having with clients, examples, because at the end of the day, the math, the algebra has to work. And really, algebra, again, but maybe wasn't my favorite subject in school.
Don't lie to the people.
You're right. I did like algebra. I hated calculus and forget trig. I wasn't real happy with trig, but understanding that you have you have a cash flow that you need, you have sources of income. If you have to make up, if there's a deficit there, how much capital do I need to prudently invest it, pulling some income, maintaining my capital over a long period of time so I can do the things that I want to do, planning for contingencies. That's what a game plan is all about. And not only contingencies for what if somebody dies, but what happens if I get sick? What happens if I live longer than I think that I have to? What if Aaron or Jody, my daughters, call me in the middle of the night and say, "Hey, Dad, I need some cash."
Wait, we can do that?
But that's an option?
You're right. You've got another child now too. Remember?
Well, my children are wise, so they call the bank of Mel. They don't call me, so it's they call their mom. Which is easy, but
what I really think is great about focusing on retirement in terms of a math problem or algebra, as you like to say, Dad. I think it takes a lot of the emotion out of very emotional decisions. Preparing for retirement is like I said, very emotional. It's scary because you're moving from something that you've known for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years of your life into something else. You depended upon a paycheck, or you depended upon your ability to generate a paycheck if you are self-employed. Now you're going to move into living off of the savings that you've built over that time. So you're transitioning into something new, making those family decisions that you mentioned. Can I help the kids? Can I help the grandkids? Do I want to do those things? Am I able to do those things? Those can be emotional. A lot of times we can't fully take the emotion out of things because it's impossible, but what we can do is frame it in a way where you can see the implications of those decisions. And implication isn't a negative or a positive word. It's neutral. What happens when I do this? What happens if I do that? And being able to see it in black and white, using your own numbers. We use hypothetical situations on the radio because we have to, but when you come in and see us, we're going to put together your game plan based on your income need, based on the assets you've accumulated, based on the taxation of those assets, and you'll be able to see that on our big whiteboard, reflecting. We like to say this is your life because it's everything that you've accumulated over your working career, but it really just represents how do we make your life work when you transition from working to retirement.
Yes, nice. And obviously when we lay this out on our electronic whiteboard, we're saving that data, and really that becomes the basis, the bones of your game plan. And so every year, for most clients, it's usually every 6 months, et cetera, at least. What's happening is that we're testing our game plan. We're testing changes in the market. How are they affecting my game plan? And I think that having that view of where I am in terms of, and most of our clients they're rock stars. Okay. So therefore these elections, these nuclear power plant meltdowns, bad weather conditions, whatever it might be, they're blips, because we know that investing over the long haul is what got you to where you want to be. Staying invested, coming up with a game plan, especially for your investments, that will be prudent and put you in a situation where we can hopefully capture the market as it's rising, and also not capture the whole downside of the market. That's really what diversification is all about. So having someone there to frankly be accountable, not only for you and your actions, but for them and their actions. It's a team approach, and it's really not only does it make it fun, but certainly I think it permits most folks to be able to dream a little bit, do some things.
And the only thing I would add to this is, in addition to the math and, what you're spending, what are your sources, there's always the, mechanically, how exactly does this work? I've got these 401ks, I've got these accumulation vehicles that I've been funding. How do I begin to transition from the accumulation stage of my life to the distribution stage of my life? And, how do I do this in a smart, tax-efficient way? So, there's like both sides here. There's the mechanics and the infrastructure of how we're going to go from A to B, and then there's, your math and what you're spending and the nuts and bolts of your household budget. So it's a really comprehensive picture, and we bring it all together on that whiteboard.
Which is great. So I guess, do we have any more text to do, or are we going to our next topic?
We do. The text
let's go.
Text line is ready to go.
Woo-hoo.
And our next texter writes, "Hey, I was recently in a conversation with a fellow colleague, and we were talking about Social Security. He's a bit over a year away from Social Security. I told him that when he turns 70, he needs to sign up for it. He kind of looked puzzled and says, 'Oh, why do I have to sign up for it? Can I just let it continue?' And I told him there was no benefit to letting it continue. I guess my question to you is, who is correct?" Well, it sounds like you're correct, sir. Because,
yes, sir. Are you ever?
Past 70, there are no more increases to your Social Security benefit. So if you're not taking it at 70, you're really just leaving money on the table, and you certainly don't want to do that. You were smart by letting it grow all the way till 70. You got all your bump ups. Now it's time to turn that faucet on, because there's literally no benefit to not doing it.
And I would just add to that by saying, it sounds like, as he is a colleague, that means that he's still working. So once you get to normal retirement age, there's no penalty or take back for electing your Social Security benefit if you decide to do that. But once you've reached that age, you allow it to grow in two ways. One, you're still working, and you're allowing your Social Security benefit to grow. But if you ever decide to take it between normal retirement age and 70, you're not going to see a take back involved either. So it definitely makes sense by the time you get to 70 to take your Social Security benefit. And if you're not going to spend it, then at least you are going to be able to start generating some after-tax savings, or maybe pay down a debt potentially, use it to pay off that mortgage.
Or maybe go out and have some fun.
Or even build up that emergency fund that, frankly, you hadn't been doing previous to that because you were socking so much money away into pre-tax 401k, 403b accounts.
Absolutely.
It looks like we have our first caller on the line. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning. Could you tell us the good and the bad about the RMD and what you can do with that when you want to avoid or save from paying so much on taxes when you withdraw?
The good and the bad. Well, the good is you get to take some cash out of your IRA account. I guess that's good, right?
So far, yeah.
There are a few ways you can reduce your tax liability with your required minimum distributions. One of the primary ways would be
charitable contributions.
Absolutely. If you are already charitable, maybe you are writing checks from your checking account directly to charities. You may call up your advisor, or if you're working directly with a bank, call up the bank and say, I want to send my charitable donations for the year from my IRA directly to charity. So what that means is you'll be able to reduce the taxable amount of your required minimum distribution dollar for dollar, but you'll still have met the IRS requirement. So let's say $35,000 is how much you have to take out of your IRA accounts this year. If you are already making $2,000 a year donations to your church or to charity, you send $2,000 directly to that charitable organization. You take the balance, which is the $33,000, but the IRS will recognize that you took the full $35,000. You're only going to pay taxes on the $33,000 that you brought home.
It's important mechanically that it go directly from the custodian to who you want to have it, not into your hands first and then on to who you want to.
The other thing that I would say, and this is just dependent upon, if you happen to be married, Dan, if you have reached required minimum distribution age, but your wife has not, my recommendation would be, and we do this with our clients, is you want to take as much as you can from the individual who is already required to take distributions. So if you're already living off of distributions from your retirement accounts, but maybe your wife has been pulling some money, you've been pulling some money, switch it all over to the individual that has turned 73 at this point, and only take the balance from the younger spouse. Why double tax yourselves taking the full required minimum distribution from one account, which might be in excess of what you need every year, and still taking from the younger spouse? And then when you both reach required minimum distribution age, just make sure that you've again rebalance that so you're both taking just your full required minimum distribution, and then one or the other can take excess in the event that you might need it. No reason to double tax. And then the other and final thing I would say, is if we're looking at portfolio construction, as you get closer to required minimum distribution age, you may start in your after-tax accounts looking at growth-oriented investments versus dividend and interest-paying investments, because you're already going to be required to take income from one place. Why pay taxes again somewhere else?
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome, Dan.
That was great, and the only thing I would add here is that I'm going to just say this, in my opinion, for marketing purposes.
Marketing purposes?
I think that the whole concept of, oh my God, I have to take RMDs, that the taxation of taking money out of your retirement accounts is going to be huge, is really overstated. We know that at age 73. The RMD percentage is somewhere, it's less than 4%. It's like 3.87, something like that.
Right.
For most of our clients, and I would say not the majority, but the plurality, as Aaron was alluding here to, is they're taking distributions from their retirement accounts as a way to maintain and make their life work. we get to count those distributions against the RMD amount. And so at the end of the day, most of you folks have known if you've listened to me for 18 plus years, I think Roth conversions are overstated because they typically aren't really required to be done as a way to reduce the RMDs that are coming out, because the percentage just isn't that much. So think a little bit about that. Do the math. Talk with your advisor. Talk with your tax professional, and don't worry about RMDs. Most likely, you'll be taking that. You'll be covering those RMDs during your normal distributions. And this is something that we do, and we've been talking to all of our clients during the first quarter of the year, right, babe?
Well, that's exactly right. What I was going to mention was, as we see more clients reaching required minimum distribution age, we continue to find that for the first few years, 73, 74, 75, although the distribution amount will increase in two ways. Hopefully your account value has grown over the year. And secondly, as you get older, the percentage increases slightly every year. We still find that most people aren't having to take any more or substantially more, meaning within a few $1,000s of what they were already withdrawing. As you get into your 80s, early 90s, that's when the amounts increase to the point where there will be some excess. However, like you said, Dad, you're not going to see a major change, because if you were already pulling about 4% from your retirement accounts in order to make your life work, we know that Social Security is not fully taxable, so we aren't seeing huge jumps in the tax brackets as people age and need to take the required minimum distributions. We do have one more text question on deck, but I think we're going to take our second break of the hour, and when we get back, we will get to your text questions at 84126 on the text line, or please give us a call, 314-931-5877. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
It's time to get outside and get to work. Whether you've got plans to grow, mow, or blow, your local Farm and Home Supply has exactly what you need on sale during their Spring Buster Sale. Now through March 24th. Check out the new line of Aaron's mowers made in the USA. Or pick up grass seed and crabgrass preventer, all on sale. And when you need to relax, they've got 20% off all fishing rods and reels. See all the deals right now at farmandhomesupply.com.
I'd only been on the radio for 2 years when the Crisis Nursery set out to help kids in the community. And here I am still goofing around while they continue to work miracles. Each year, 4,000 plus kids get help and services that they need at no charges to the families. Get involved. CrisisNurseryKids.org. Carney's Kids is a big supporter, and they're a big supporter of me as well, sponsoring our 40th anniversary.
The Cardinals open the 2024 season at home on Thursday, April 4th. Don't miss the tradition and excitement of opening day at Busch Stadium. That day, all fans 21 and older will take home the 2024 Magnet schedule thanks to Budweiser. Never miss a game with this convenient information hub. That's Thursday, April 4th, the Cardinals home opener and the 2024 Magnet schedule presented by Budweiser. Tickets still remain. Get yours at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Lance Lynn, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou. On Sunday, April 7th, the Cardinals host the Marlins. And that day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home their own long-sleeve hooded pullover. Everyone will want this light blue, lightweight, and stylish pullover that features a popular throwback logo. Following the game, kids 15 and younger can participate in the High Chew Kids Run the Bases. That's Sunday, April 7th. Great seats remain. Get yours at cardinals.com/promotion.
This is Nolan Gorman, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
You know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and windows and doors are usually that first impression when it comes to your home. Dalco Home Remodeling custom makes their windows and doors, and better yet, they make them here in Missouri. Dalco Home Remodeling is locally and family owned, celebrating 50 years, so they know a thing or two. The Dalco team is known for quality and customer satisfaction. That's the way it was 50 years ago when they started, and that's still true today. So if you're looking to change the look of your home without breaking the bank, call Dalco Home Remodeling. They do free in-home estimates. Just call 314-298-7300 and make an appointment. You can also check them out online at dalcohomeremodeling.com. As they've always said, if you buy somewhere else and find out how much you could have saved at Dalco, you'll blow your stack. So call Dalco first, 314-298-7300.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. We've got about 4 minutes left. We're going to answer your phone calls and your texts before we get into hour number 2.
And our next texter writes, can you discuss a single-payer indexed annuity, second-to-die annuity, costs, returns, any tax benefits, etc.?
Single premium index annuity.
Well, sure. Again, all we're talking, you go, an index annuity, all we're really talking about here is the funding basis behind the interest or earnings inside the contract. What you're looking at is having your cash values being linked to a index like the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, etc.
Sometimes the what do they call
Russell 2000
or the international.
Yes, and
CFA.
Again, right. Thank you. And again, second to die, which isn't really as popular anymore at this point, is basically paying out a death benefit at the second death, which is great. I would tell you that in our experience, most of our clients at this point, we're purchasing insurance typically on the female spouses, on the moms, because for the primary reason that they're generally either the same age or younger, and in insurance age, they're considered 5 years younger than males. So if we're going to deliver money, generally, just because of the way things work, the moms typically outlive the dads, and so that's really when the money is needed. So,
well, also with, at least if you were thinking about life insurance, the death benefit would be tax-free versus with a single premium index annuity, any growth inside the contract, although while both individuals are alive, is going to grow tax-deferred. The interest is going to be taxable at the second person's death to whomever inherits that money. They can stretch it over a certain number of years. However, there's going to be tax implications for the growth inside of the contract.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me saying, the contracts today, at least in my opinion, as compared to the contracts that were issued 10 or 15 years ago, are not really as good. Because with an index-linked annuity, what happens is that there's a cap on the returns that you can earn, which is typically based on that index, and you're not even getting 100% of that index return. Those index return rates are lower than they were 10 to 15 years ago, so I would certainly suggest that the general account assets of the insurance company, i.e. fixed income rates, or a variable annuity, which is you're really getting 100% of the investment growth inside of those sub-accounts, might be something that would be, frankly, more valuable as an accumulation value over a period of time.
And I guess I would only ask in terms of the crediting strategies, so those caps, do the caps rise with interest rates over time, or is there another calculation that insurance companies use when they modify the crediting strategies?
No, truthfully, I think it's the marketing department that figures out what they want to do. No, it really is. Some of the contracts, generally when you get into a contract, the rates are fixed. I mean, in terms of this is the index, this is maybe either upfront participation rate that you're paying, which takes return off the index, or the index caps itself is really fixed there. So I would say I don't like the caps. If I'm going to have my interest or earnings linked to an investment index, I want to get 100% of the index return.
And I would also say, just as I've seen quite a few of these index-linked annuities that have already been put in place recently, and The crediting strategies, which is what we're discussing, linking to an index and then having a cap, or linking to an index and having a trigger to what they will credit you, they can be confusing and a little bit complicated. So you really want to have a lot of clarity as to what you are purchasing and then what you elect your crediting strategy to be. So because many of the times these index-linked annuities have the longest surrender. It can be between 10 and 12 years in a lot of cases. But what won't be between 10 and 12 years is when we come back after these messages.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to hour number 2, the Hour of Power, on Straight Talk on Retirement. We're going to start off this segment of the show with our smart choices about your health care, as we usually do.
Because you care, we talk Medicare. I didn't get
Every
to say
time it cracks me up.
I didn't get to say it last week.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Cheryl.
Cheryl is 64 and a half and getting ready to come on to Medicare when she turns 65. When she called our office to schedule an appointment to come in and see Frank, Frank asked her if she'd been doing any research on Medicare.
And boy, had she ever.
Cheryl began to talk about her late mom, Irene, and how she knew she didn't want to be on one of those, quote, free plans with no doctors, because that's what her mom had, and she'd experienced some difficulty on her mom's plan. She said it all started when her mom needed to see a neurologist. She had to have a referral to deal with the nerve damage that set her treatment back 3 months. And in the process of getting the referral, that process took so long and the pain got so bad that she had to reschedule several times. And, her mother's nerve pain became so unbearable to where she could barely walk.
And then Cheryl also mentioned that, her mom would always hit the donut hole with medication, so she really wanted to avoid having a drug plan at all if possible. She also said that her mom had a dental, but no dentist would accept her in the dental plan, even though she had a $500 allowance. And this was all back in the early 2000s, really when I started working with Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans. So Cheryl mentioned a few things here. First, she's not a fan of referrals. Second, she doesn't think there are a lot of doctors in the network. Third, not even a fan of drug plans. And then finally, she doesn't think the extra benefits are going to be all that extra for her. So she's got a few things going on that I think are, luckily for Cheryl, a little outdated.
Absolutely. The first one being no referrals.
That's right. So Cheryl set this up kind of perfectly, which is, how does the referral process work? You go to your primary care doctor, you find out that you have something that's outside of the scope of what the primary care doctor is going to or can manage for you. So he sends you to a neurologist.
Could be a dermatologist.
Or a cardiologist, any of those. In the past, you had to go see your primary. You had to get the referral. Now, this would happen electronically. The primary care doctor's office would then send the referral to the specialist. Sometimes they get backed up in the primary care doctor's office because many primary care doctors participated in HMO-style plans. And as Obamacare was introduced, there were even more HMO-style plans that weren't just Medicare-related. So you had to wait for that referral. But recently, as of 2021, right?
Absolutely.
No more
referrals.
From almost any of the Medicare Advantage plans. You do want to check with your specific Medicare Advantage plan, but United Healthcare, Aetna, Anthem, even some of the Essence policies no longer have HMO referral requirements. In addition to that,
you can go to any doctor you want if they're in network and on an HMO plan.
Right. And if you said, I still don't like the idea of the HMO, they offer PPO style plans, which originally came with no referrals and give you both in
and out of network.
Right. So you really can see any doctor you want.
I mean, your cost might be a little bit more with the PPO plan, but if you like the flexibility of seeing any doctor you want in network, out of network, that's certainly an option.
In addition to that, the networks with HMO-style plans with Medicare Advantage have grown exponentially over time, and they are even required to maintain larger networks. So what we're finding is, especially when people have been using individual health coverage and they come on to Medicare, their doctor networks could expand 3-4 times what they had previously. We're more than likely finding all of their physicians fit into multiple networks, so you're not pigeonholed into one company versus another. You might have quite a few options across an HMO network.
It's funny that you're mentioning that, because I just sat in with on a meeting with Frankie on Friday, and that was exactly the case. Gentleman was coming onboarded from Obamacare onto Medicare, and he was shocked and pleasantly surprised at the range of doctors that were in the Aetna Gold Advantage plan.
And he could actually recapture, I bet, some of the physicians that he had to let go of while he was on the Obamacare policies.
Every single physician he was seeing on the Obamacare policy that I had were included in his network.
Plus ones that weren't included as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And when we went through all the added benefits, then it was, he was like a kid in a candy store.
So first, so we can alleviate the referral issue. We can alleviate the small network issue in one of two ways. One, knowing that the HMO-style plans have pretty large networks at this point. But secondly, being able to offer other options. If you really would like the PPO-style plan, I would say that there's about an 80% overlap between the HMO and the PPO in terms of network availability. But that doesn't mean that, maybe if you want the freedom to see absolutely whomever you'd like, the PPO-style plan is always an option. Now, let's talk a little bit about the prescription drug coverage. If you elect a Medicare Advantage plan, you have the prescription drug coverage built in. Now, sometimes this can be a stumbling block for people electing Medicare Advantage. Maybe they need a more specialized prescription drug plan, which would lead us to a supplemental policy. But regardless of if you can use the Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan, or you need something more specialized, so we lean towards the supplemental policies with premiums and add that prescription drug policy for you, you still, one, want to have prescription drug coverage, but two, either one of those policies, Medicare Advantage with prescription drug coverage built in or a standalone prescription drug plan, is going to include the donut hole for one more year. So for this year, the most you can spend, and some people will still hit the donut hole at $8,500 for the year. That's the most you can spend on your prescriptions in 2024. In 2025, that's going to drop down to $3,000.
Woohoo!
That was like a lackluster woohoo.
Well, can't outdo the master. You know how the 48 laws of power work.
So, basically,
I resemble that remark, by the way. Thank you.
It's always important to have comprehensive coverage regardless of what type of coverage you are electing. Medicare Advantage packages it all together for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You get the medical, you get the prescription, and you get some extra benefits thrown in: dental, vision, hearing, silver sneakers, over-the-counter benefit. With a supplemental policy, or Medigap policy, as many people refer to them,
you have to piece all that together. Your drug plan, your medical, your say if you wanted vision or dental, that all that is, you're going to have to jigsaw it all together.
Exactly. But you still want to maintain comprehensive coverage, because even if you are an individual that is on a specialty medication or a higher price brand name medication where you hit the donut hole, you still have protection. Just because you have a gap in coverage, it's not no coverage. It's just less coverage, and it's only going to be for a protracted amount of time. Now, if Cheryl decided not to elect any prescription drug coverage for the whole year, she will be hit with a lifetime penalty, which is 1% of the average prescription drug cost per month, which is tacked on if she ever decided to elect a prescription drug plan. So why would you do that? Especially if you're going to take a look at these Medicare Advantage plans that have no cost to you. If you're not taking any prescriptions right now, or you're taking prescriptions that currently have no cost to you, it's highly likely they will have no cost to you on Medicare, too. Those first two tiers, preferred generics and non-preferred generics, tend to now have zero copays. Why create a potential penalty for yourself when you end up on a more expensive medication, a tier 3 or 4 being preferred brand or non-preferred brand drugs, where you would be paying retail price, whereas you could get a little protection from the insurance company on those?
You would sit down with Frank to avoid potentially stepping into a landmine that did include a penalty.
Exactly. And then the final thing is the extra benefits not being so extra. So I can tell that Cheryl's mom was probably utilizing the Aetna Gold Advantage plan that we are talking about now 12 years ago, because when they started to offer dental, it was between $250 and $500 a year. That's it.
Do you want to know what it is now?
What is it now?
$3,250.
And they started out with a teeny tiny dental network. I think it had about 50 physicians in it in the St. Louis County area in 2013 when I first started working with Aetna. Now they have no dental network. They have physicians that participate. If they do participate, you don't have to do the legwork, so they will bill insurance for you, so you don't have to worry about the reimbursement. If they don't participate, you still get the reimbursement. There's no in or out of network differential. You still get that $3,250. You just have to do one extra step, and you have to pay the dentist in full, and then Aetna will send you your reimbursement up to $3,250 per year.
And Frank was saying there were some really great dentist providers that they do all the legwork for you. Like they're like, don't worry about it. We're going to submit it to Medicare, and you won't see a bill.
And those are for the dentists that are participating with Aetna. But the great news is you don't have to use those dentists if you don't want to. So not only has the benefit increased like
10 times.
10 times
12
almost,
times.
But the dental network is no longer an issue. So I would say, it's always important to learn from other people's experiences, especially if you, and it sounds like Cheryl was really carrying the load for her mom for a while, helping her get those referrals when she needed it, helping her try to utilize the benefits that were offered to her. But it's also important to get the latest information on what is available.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said. You were an expert in your field of employment for as long as you were employed. You weren't expected to, keep up with the nuances of Medicare and Medicare advantages. And, so someone's experience with their mom 10, 15 years prior, like you said, they're carrying that weight with them. And, again, because they're not expected to be experts in these programs, that's why you sit down with Frank.
Right. And, Cheryl and Frank took a long time talking about Cheryl's mom's experience. But we really didn't hear all that much about Cheryl's current experience. So I would say the next time we would want to refocus our attention on what is Cheryl doing? Does she have a lot of medical expenses? Is she utilizing the physician very often? What prescriptions does she have? And that's going to lead us to what the best choice for her is. But in most cases, if she's not seeing the physician very often, why are you going to prepay using a monthly premium when you could only have to pay as you go? I used to say this a lot, which is, when have you ever in your life been able to say, maybe when you were on your parents' coverage, that you had comprehensive coverage and you didn't have to pay for it unless you actually used it? Medicare gives you the opportunity to control your expenses in the years that are good for you and limit your expenses in the years that aren't so good. And we know, as investment advisors, that you could be retired for longer than you were working.
Which is wild when you think about it. But one aspect of the Aetna Gold plan I'd just like to touch on is, you have a max out-of-pocket of $2,400. So as you're paying your copays, you're chipping away at that. But, Aetna is sending you a copay card with a $200 a quarter allowance. So as you're paying the copay, you're really not paying them. You got that $200. So in essence, you're given $800 in copays, so your max out-of-pocket really comes down to somewhere in the 1600s.
That's incredible.
I mean, it's wild. And when you talk about the supplements, I mean, when we pieced together the gentleman that came in to see Frank on Friday, between the vision, the dental and the supplement itself, it was going to be over $3,000
for the year.
And his max, but again, you're on an escalator at that point. Like, you come on at 65, at 67, you could have an 8 or 10% increase between 65 and 67.
Right. So he'd be paying $250 a month, all told, for his supplement. And he's only seeing the doctor, twice a year?
Exactly. And he was on 2 generics.
So a lot of people are mesmerized, I'll say, by the allure of, I pay a premium and I never have to pay anything when I go to the doctor. Well, you didn't have to hand the doctor any cash, but if you only see the primary care doctor twice a year, or you see the primary care doctor and a specialist twice a year, you really paid, especially in that gentleman's case you mentioned from last week, a $1,500 copay. You just didn't turn it all over when you went in to see the doctor. You just paid on a monthly basis to the insurance company, and the benefit of not flipping the primary care doctor zero on most of these Medicare Advantage plans. Specialists are between $25 and $45 a visit. So to avoid the $45 to $90 a year, you exchanged it for $1,500 per visit, $3,000 a year.
Again, between the copay card and, again, your max out of pocket, it's the worst health year of your life. Your max out of pocket is $2,400. Whereas with the supplement, you were going to pay, every year was the worst year of your life, because not only are you paying the premium, but you're on the escalator as well.
And I really think the advantage of chatting with someone like Frank is not just to cover all of the potential misconceptions or changes that have occurred over the years with Medicare, but you can really drill down to these Medicare Advantage plans to select once we determine that your physicians fit, once we determine that your prescriptions fit, we can really help direct you towards the plan that's got the extra benefits that you are going to utilize. If you're only seeing the doctor 2-3 times a year, maybe the copay card doesn't mean all that much to you.
I'll tell you what did mean a lot to him was the fitness allowance, because he was a power walker. And
a power walker.
No, look, we both know. I mean, once you get around that track a couple times,
on the move,
right? And so the idea that $1,200 in sneakers, he was over the moon, and he wanted to get some compression sleeves for his knees, because he gets a little bit of bursitis. So when he heard that, big smile come across his face, like, wow, I'm going out there and I don't have to slum it with a $50 pair that I'm paying for. I can step up to the Hookers, or what are the Brooks. They've got some specialized walking.
Oh, you can get those walking sticks.
Whatever you want, it's or even we were talking about it says the only time he doesn't get to do his power walks is when it's really cold and or raining or snowing. Now is the perfect time. Hey, maybe it's time for that treadmill. Maybe it's time for a small elliptical or stepper.
Or maybe it's time for a heated vest.
Right. Again, it's just, these Medicare Advantage plans are expanding in the scope of what they'll cover and their benefits and allowances. And, sitting down with Frank and going over what those are, it's eye-opening for them. It's eye-opening for me. I'm sitting there saying, Frank, I wish you, after that meeting, I'm like, if I could sign up right now, I would completely do it.
Well, I don't think we need to age you 20 years just yet.
Jesus, is like you're sitting in on that meeting, because that's what he said. Because I made the comment, goes, don't age yourself just yet. It's not all roses and rainbows.
Is there a Medicare supplemental drug plan that would help lower my out-of-pocket costs for Mounjaro? I'm a type 2 diabetic and always get caught in the donut hole. So unfortunately, it's fabulous that the drug companies have come up with these medications that can help lower your A1C without necessarily having to take insulin injections, but they do tend to be much higher priced. The great news is, although right now you're stuck in the drug plan that you have, well, you might not be, because Essence has released a 5-star plan this year, which means that they have a year-round enrollment. So I would absolutely recommend, and I am not well-versed enough to know, because number one, I don't know what drug plan you're currently on versus what Essence looks like, but Essence would give you the opportunity throughout the course of the entire year to switch onto their Medicare Advantage plans with their drug plan. They tend to have some of the lower cost drug plans out there for you because they're a regional company versus national. Sometimes they can limit their costs in ways that Aetna, United, Humana, Cigna aren't able to do. So I would recommend taking a look there because you'll have the opportunity to switch. But then secondly, when we get to next year in 2025, they are going to limit your prescription drug costs, at least as it stands now, to $3,000 a year. So although you may end up still spending the full $3,000, it's going to be significantly less than what you've had to spend when you hit that donut hole this year and also in years past.
And just as an aside, what does it cost to sit down with Frank for a coaching session?
It costs you nothing to sit down with Frank, either in office for the phone.
Or as I like to say, it'll only cost you if you don't sit down with Frank.
And the way that you can sit down with Frank is give our office a call, 314-863-0008, or send us an email through the website. Hit that Contact Us button at JBL Financial. Say, hey, I want to chat with Frank. Or just send Frank an email, Franklin, Frank, L-I-N, at jblfinancial.com. Oh, we got a follow-up. He is on the Essence policy. Well, then, it sounds like you probably made the best selection available for this year. I do know one of the nice things about Essence is, although you've hit the donut hole with the Mounjaro, they won't increase the costs of your other medications if you happen to be on anything else, which, although seems like a minor benefit, at least it's something that they've added in so you don't have increased costs across the board. But I definitely take the opportunity when it's open enrollment for next year to take a look at what the best options will be for you, because you may be in Essence because it had the best prescription drug plan, and now that they're going to be limiting your prescription drug expenses, that might open up your options to other Medicare Advantage plans. Although I do love Essence, there are many out there available. And with that, I think, why don't we take our... we've got one more text question coming in, and then we'll take our first break of the hour.
And our texter writes, if I have a Medicare Advantage plan and I'm out of my network and I need medical attention, will I be covered?
Yes.
Of course.
You'll be covered with ER throughout the world. So anything happens to you in the United States or throughout the world, you can go to the ER and you will be billed as it were in network. You have urgent care access throughout the country, and it would be billed as it were in network. So if you you feel like you maybe have strep throat, you have a cold, you need a Z-Pack, you go to the urgent care, you need a couple stitches, something along those lines.
So, for instance, like if I, in theory, were on a Medicare Advantage plan, and I was down visiting my dad in Fort Myers, Florida, and, like you said, I got strep throat, or, I fell off my bike, I need a couple stitches, or, I just need to see a doctor to get maybe some decongestive medicine, whatever the case is. I'm still covered.
You're still covered as if you were in network, but United Healthcare and Aetna have added an extra benefit for you. They're going to allow you to link into their national network. So let's say you're down in Fort Myers with Dad, and instead of hanging out with him, maybe you don't feel like trying out the free orange juice at the local store. You want to go to the dermatologist instead. As long as they accept Aetna, they will actually take you at in-network prices. So they have almost alleviated that localized network if you're using a national company. Now, we talked about Essence a few times. They don't have that availability because Essence is a regional company, so they don't have a national network to link into. But Essence will still give you ER and urgent care throughout the country and ER throughout the world if necessary. So all of these Medicare Advantage plans, even if you are not in your network, will give you ER and urgent care access, and some will give you a little bit more if that's something you want to do while you're on vacation. But something else, well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm super excited to see what they add next year. It's like every year, more goodies get added to the pot, and I mean, this time they've really outdone themselves.
I agree. Can't wait to see what they're going to come up with next. And with that, I think we should take our first break of the hour. When we get back, we've got another Social Security question on deck. So please don't touch that dial because I know you'll all want the answer to that.
This Jennifer and Wendy announcement is brought to you by BetterHelp.
How is your social battery? Some of us are introverts and feel drained by too much socializing. Other people, the extroverts, thrive around lots of people and they have a real need for it.
It can be easy to ignore your social battery and find yourself burned out because you don't have enough alone time. And learning how to express that need for alone time to your loved ones can be a challenge.
Therapy can help you develop the self-awareness to find that perfect balance to keep your social battery charged. If you've thought about therapy, give BetterHelp a try.
It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist at any time for no additional charge.
Find your social sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JNW today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JNW.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Nestled in the heart of the Hill neighborhood is the Hill Cigar Company. Stop on in, see the selection of cigars the Hill Cigar Company has to offer. While you're in the store, check out their cigar lounge in the back. Whether you're new to cigars or an aficionado, the Hill Cigar Company is the perfect shop for you. The Hill Cigar Company at 5360 Southwest Avenue. Give them a call at 314-776-4455. A cigar for every connoisseur.
The Cardinals open the 2024 season at home on Thursday, April 4th. Don't miss the tradition and excitement of opening day at Busch Stadium. That day, all fans 21 and older will take home the 2024 Magnet schedule thanks to Budweiser. Never miss a game with this convenient information hub. That's Thursday, April 4th, the Cardinals home opener and the 2024 Magnet schedule presented by Budweiser. Tickets still remain. Get yours at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Lance Lynn, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
On Sunday, April 7th, the Cardinals host the Marlins. And that day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home their own long-sleeve hooded pullover. Everyone will want this light blue, lightweight, and stylish pullover that features a popular throwback logo. Following the game, kids 15 and younger can participate in the High Chew Kids Run the Bases. That's Sunday, April 7th. Great seats remain. Get yours at cardinals.com/promotion.
This is Nolan Gorman, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
You're selling your home, and I want to buy it. This is Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I am ready to pay top dollar for your home. No contingencies, no inspections, no monkey business. I buy your home no matter the condition or location, and you walk away with cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867, 314-283-0867, or at robankproperties.com. That's ROBANG properties.com.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. Here on the Big 550 KTRS, we're here to answer your questions by telephone at 314-931-5877 or the KTRS text line 84126.
And speaking of that text line, we have a text from the previous hour that we didn't get to, so we'll get to it now. The texter writes, my wife will turn 67, full retirement age, in October of 2027. I will turn 67 in February of 2028, also full retirement age for me. Can she draw her Social Security amount a little less than half of mine for those few months, then switch to my half? You know, that's a great plan, and I like your thinking, but unfortunately,
Oh my God! Now it's like you're literally turning into Dad. It's like a protege, a second one.
I didn't go to the no, Nanette. I'll save that one. Tuck that one away.
Like catch us all off guard. Unfortunately, if you were born after 1954, you are no longer able to deem, which means do the switching back and forth between one benefit or another. The benefit that you elect is the benefit that you will stay with unless you are electing the survivor benefit, which is if someone has passed away. And that's that.
Beautiful.
Well, I think we should get into a little story about Jack and Diane.
It seems that we've beaten the text and the phone lines into compliance for the moment.
But nobody likes my John Mellencamp reference.
I thought it was great. I was going to go there myself about Jack and Diane. So let's talk a little bit about them. They're both 60, and they have a 15-year level premium term insurance policies of over $500,000 each. Both policies are at the end of their guaranteed premium period, and their rates are about to explode.
By 8 times.
Ouch.
Like the soundboard over there.
Little background on them. Their 3 children are out of college and entering their careers. Love to see it. They're all married, but no grandkids yet. And most importantly, no student loan debt.
Well, that's fabulous.
Well, they also have no mortgage or HOL loans, home equity loans. And they've accumulated a fair amount of money under their retirement plans of about $1.3 million. So it's not unusual for us to get a question about, do we need to keep these? And if we want to, what's the most effective way to do it? So, Rob, you're a life insurance expert. What do you think?
Well, after doing an analysis, they've certainly created sufficient capital and cash flows, pensions and Social Securities, when one spouse predeceases the other. So, I mean, do they really need the life insurance?
Because we know that usually life insurance is created, especially when you are younger, to either create cash flow in the event that maybe the primary wage earner or a wage earner passes away, so you want to create additional cash flow, or you want to liquidate a debt. Jack and Diane don't need either of those.
So, I mean, unless they want to increase the value of their estate for the kids, the answer would be no. But, you know, this is not a static situation. What about the future? You know, is it important to have money for potential grandchildren that's separate from their parents?
It's a good question.
Yeah, the grandchildren part, I resemble that remark.
I mean, he's only said the word like 3 times. I was waiting.
You know, what about...
Well, I'm the one waiting.
I just walked right into that, like, full speed.
Yep.
Like, there is
the
an
door jam, just smash.
Right, there's like an Aaron-shaped hole in that brick wall.
Just getting Hulk smashed.
Life is good. So, and the other, a couple other concerns about here. Is it important to reduce the erosion of capital from federal income taxes on the IRAs that their children, i.e. and maybe grandchildren, will eventually inherit? This is a big deal.
You've talked
right?
about it being the biggest change to the tax code in a generation. And, because inheritors of 401k IRA assets are going to be forced to liquidate them in 10 years.
Which could be a pretty significant tax burden.
Of course. And, Jack and Diane have $1.3 million today at 60. At 65 or 70, I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that they could be substantially higher.
Well, right. And also, their life expectancy is at least another 20 years, and we know that on average those assets could double over that period of time. At least historically they have. So we're going from 1.3 million to over 2 million potentially, divided amongst only 3 children, and having to liquidate that over 10 years could be a substantial increase to those tax brackets for the children.
And the third concern that we want to look at is there a need for more capital for one or more of the children because of a health or or another reason, could be economic.
Yeah, no question about that. We like to, people love their children equally, but the truth is that they take different career paths. They marry differently. They choose different educational paths. And so sometimes one is a little better off than the other. Sometimes one may be less better off because of health purposes. And so is there a capital need? The repurposing of life insurance at older ages is something that's extremely important. And we know that the future is never certain, and it's usually unclear. So what are some of the options, Rob, that these folks could consider if they'd like to retain all or a portion of this coverage, in the light that these premiums are going to really go up to such a large rate that they're going to become unsustainable very quickly?
Well, we can use the conversion privilege and convert all or a portion of the current policies to a permanent contract with a face amount that makes sense to, marrying it to one of those previous concerns, whether it was tax erosion of their assets, or perhaps we wanted to create a windfall for one of the children for, a certain need or another. So, we can do that with a premium that they can live with. And there are no medical questions, policies purchased at the health they were 15 years ago when they originally got those term policies.
Right, so you want to check the front of your policy because it shows you how long you have to convert your policy when that conversion privilege is over. And,
it's a two-track race. We can see what that conversion privilege would be while at the same time get examined for new coverage and see, how they balance out. Does a new policy make sense? Does a conversion make sense? Where is the price points here? So it's a two-track race.
And most people might be thinking, well, they're older. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive now, but there could be mitigating circumstances. For example, Jack or Diane could have been a smoker at the time of the original issuance, and they've either, they're no longer smokers. They have gone through the cessation programs, and maybe they've gone from a premium issued with a tobacco table rating versus non-tobacco. So that could make a big difference.
Absolutely. And, it doesn't mean 7 out of 10 times it's probably going to be the conversion would be the cheaper of the option, but it doesn't. I mean, this is why you come to a professional and, we'll crunch the numbers and, if it comes out one way or the other, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Right, because the idea is to make this as cost effective for you as possible to where you want to go.
I really think the second, the second option about the erosion of the capital on those IRAs, especially, like I said, they're only 60 right now. They're still going to be working for a few more years, maybe even 7 more years, and still contributing. I mean, and then you have, being your
invested over time.
Exactly. Rising tides lifting all boats. And before you know it, 1.3 million is, like you said, could be double. And now you're looking at, because the government's going to get their money one way or the other. That's going to happen. So now it becomes a question of, well, how would we like to pay them? Do we want to pay them with quarters out of our own pocket, or do we want to pay them with nickels and dimes from the insurance company?
I like that.
Yes, I do. And, it isn't unreasonable that folks, especially purchasing large contracts, did this for limited time periods. A 15-year term policy, we could see that protection was there for Jack and Diane through their college educational years, through the fact that they were involved in the capital accumulation phase. But now that they're done with that phase and they're looking potentially at the distribution phase in the future, the need isn't a temporary need. It's actually a permanent need. And one good thing for them, as well as all the rest of you, is that there are new contracts out there, and there are contracts now that can provide lifetime coverage with very low premiums, not accumulating a lot of cash value, so that they really almost look like term policies. So depending upon how much you want to pay, how much you can pay, what your needs are, etc. Again, this is another computer problem, and I think the big thing, and Rob, you were really pointing this out, not permitting those guaranteed insurability periods, those conversion periods to expire, can really be fundamentally important, because for most folks, their health has changed. The cholesterol numbers have gone down over the years. I mean, maybe they were a preferred risk at 45, but guess what? At 60, maybe they're standing. Why pay more than is necessary?
No, and like I said, it could be that the conversion makes sense. It could be that, new coverage makes sense. We'll get to the bottom of it one way or the other, and we will marry that obligation with a concern, whether it be, one of my children has special needs, or, hey, I would prefer that the government not erode my retirement assets. I would like to leave them to the kids or the grandkids. So
he asked for that one right there.
Yeah, I'm teeing you up here. Fastball right down the plate.
I'm not the only one asking for grandkids. Okay, what can I tell you? So all you Team Jeffers out there, you're allowed to text in on this matter. So thank you so much. But honey, I was going to say it's probably a good idea to take our second break. This was a nice segment, but again, life insurance issues, annuity issues, healthcare issues, retirement game. All these are part of a strategy, retirement game plan, and having the ability to meld these together, synergize your total plan, really makes a lot of sense. So this was a great email we received from Jack and Diane, and we'll see where it goes. Right?
Absolutely. So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with our last segment of our hour. Great talk on retirement. More after these messages.
Hey, starting long before I did, Kuna Food Service actually opened up their doors in 1918. Now, I started working shortly after that. A company you can't buy food from, but if you've got a local restaurant that you love, you owe Kuna a thank you. They've helped those restaurants throughout all kinds of issues of price hikes on the food, the pandemic, redesigning menus and dishes and whole restaurants. So when you enjoy a meal, remember to thank Kuna. Kuna Food Service. Online, KunaFoodService.com.
You know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and windows and doors are usually that first impression when it comes to your home. Dalco Home Remodeling custom makes their windows and doors, and better yet, they make them here in Missouri. Dalco Home Remodeling is locally and family owned, celebrating 50 years, so they know a thing or two. The Dalco team is known for quality and customer satisfaction. That's the way it was 50 years ago when they started, and that's still true today. So if you're looking to change the look of your home without breaking the bank, call Dalco Home Remodeling. They do free in-home estimates. Just call 314-298-7300 and make an appointment. You can also check them out online at DalcoHomeRemodeling.com. As they've always said, if you buy somewhere else and find out how much you could have saved at Dalco, you'll blow your stack. So call Dalco first, 314-298-7300.
Hi, I'm David Sherwood of the Inside Out Show's Tree Guy. There's a name I want you to remember, and it's Fertilome. You've probably seen the name when you visit your local nursery and garden center. Just the sound of the name Fertilome makes you think of lawns and gardens, doesn't it? These folks have a whole line of very effective products like their weed-free zone, a weed killer that you can use in cold weather, root stimulator that really will help you build a strong root system on those little flowers, and one of my favorites, Fertilome Azalea Food for your evergreens. Fertilome products are only available at your local nursery and garden center, so when it's time to visit this spring, be sure to look for the Fertilome name, and you'll discover many products that will make your gardening efforts quick, easy, and effective. Oh, and when you have a question about how to grow something or a gardening problem, I'll bet your dealer will give you the answer with a Fertilome product right in his hand. Fertilome, it's the name that says gardening success. For more information, go to Fertilome.com.
Show me the bunny. Bunny, I'm home. Some bunny loves you. For peeps' sake. Forget the corny rabbit quotes. This year, celebrate Easter by sharing authentic Saddleback chocolates. Saddleback Chocolates, O'Fallon, Illinois. SaddlebackChocolates.com. It's Kismet.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back with some more Straight Talk on Retirement. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. We'd love to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And speaking of that text line, it just exploded during our break, and let's get to them.
It's like a little delayed reaction to the Medicare question, to the Medicare hour.
I thought it was to the Team Jeffer request, so that's cool.
I'm sure those are just going to be flooding into your email. Please, no one hesitate to reach out directly, jeff@jblfinancial.com. He can field all of those.
Or you can send me an email, robert@jblfinancial.com.
You don't need to email me about this. I'm already well aware.
And our next texter writes, is it ever possible to return to traditional Medicare from an Advantage plan? Our union took all the retirees off Medicare and regular insurance and dumped us onto a Humana Advantage plan. Not happy.
Well, if this is the first year on the Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you can actually return to traditional Medicare without any medical underwriting as long as it's been within 1 year. If it has been outside of 1 year, you still can return to traditional Medicare, but you'll just have to go through medical underwriting. Luckily, this underwriting process is a little less stringent than if we were looking at life insurance. They're first going to ask three key questions. Have you been hospitalized within the last 100 days? Have you been diagnosed or had medical advice suggested to you that you have not yet completed? And do you have end-stage renal disease? If you can answer no to all three of those questions, generally you're able to get back into a traditional supplement. There are no open enrollment periods to return from Medicare Advantage to traditional Medicare. You can do that throughout the year. If neither of those avenues are open to you, you can always look at other Medicare Advantage plans during open enrollment, which begins in October, to find a policy that you are more comfortable with, because although you may not love the Humana plan, it's very possible that you could find another Medicare Advantage plan that suits your needs better.
Absolutely. And our next texter writes, I get Medicare in June as I will be 65. A question. I had cancer treatment by chemo, now on drugs for preventative treatment. The drug is called Lynparza, and it's very expensive. Would Part D cover the expense after the deductible is met, or is there a better way to get this covered? Thank you.
So, yes, prescription drug coverage through Medicare will cover your medication. I did a quick search. There are plenty of prescription drug plans that have no deductibles associated with them if you are taking the supplement with a prescription drug route that will help you cover the cost of your medication. It's not going to be 100%, so you won't be able to pick it up for no additional charge, but it will limit the expense for you. It looks like to about $3,000 through the rest of the year. There are even Medicare Advantage plans out there that will help you cover that cost for about the same out-of-pocket price, around $3,000 from April through December of this year.
Oh.
Cool.
Okay.
Call Frank. Right.
Call Frank, 314-863-0008. He'll be there to help.
And our next texter writes, I'm just tuning in, and I don't know if this has been brought up. Is there another deadline for the March 31st having to do with switching Medicare plans? I really want to get on a Medicare Advantage plan, but I guess I'm stuck till next year. As far as reaping the benefits, with my luck, they'll decide that they gave out too many goodies, and I won't be able to do it again till next year. Thank you.
So, If you are currently on a supplemental policy, you have missed the open enrollment period, except for, I believe, if you are interested potentially in Essence. They have a 5-star plan available in the area, so you might be able to switch onto that policy. Otherwise, yes, you do have to wait until open enrollment in order to switch onto a Medicare Advantage plan from a supplemental policy, which begins October 15th and runs through December 7th. I would say I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future, but I can say that having worked with Medicare Advantage plans for the last 13 years, I have rarely seen them cut the extra benefits. I've only seen them add to those extra benefits. And the reason for that is the majority of the Medicare Advantage plans have to operate within a very narrow scope of what benefits they can offer to you in terms of the medical, because they still have to follow all the rules and regulations of Medicare itself. So where they're able to garner more enrollees, which is what they want, is in those extra benefits. So it's really marketing for these Medicare Advantage plans to offer more benefits to you. And I've only seen, now they have changed shape and scope over time, but I've seen them improve over the years. So although you might be, as you feel, stuck for one more year, it'll be your last year.
And our next texter writes, I am turning 65 in November and will be leaving my company's health care plan. Does it make sense for me to elect COBRA coverage after I leave, or should I enroll in Medicare?
What do you think?
I think you should enroll in Medicare and definitely not get stuck with those COBRA premiums. They're expensive.
Well, the COBRA premiums are expensive. You don't get any of the extra cool benefits we've been talking about, especially if you elect a Medicare Advantage plan, but you're not actually eligible for COBRA. If you have a spouse, if you have children that were on your employer plan, they're going to have their own individual COBRA rights available to them. COBRA is only for individuals that don't have access to other qualified coverage. Medicare is considered qualified coverage. So if you elect COBRA and you don't elect your Medicare benefits at 65, you're going to miss your initial election period. You're going to have to wait for open enrollment for Medicare Part B, which is not October 7th. It's actually January 1st through March 31st. Then you're going to have to wait to get onto Medicare until July 1st, and you're going to get hit with a penalty. So please don't do that. And you don't want to do that. Even if you loved your employer-based plan, I can almost guess that we can find you. I'm confident in my guess that we can find you a plan that you are as comfortable, if not happier, than your potential COBRA coverage.
That's great. I have a Medicare question, babe.
It better not be from Mom.
No, it isn't for your mom.
Okay, then I'll accept.
I would have to pay.
Right.
This is actually for me.
Okay.
As you know, I went on to the Medicare Advantage plan February 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't elected my Social Security benefits at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I also haven't received a bill from Medicare for my first quarterly premium. Should I be concerned?
This is a fantastic question. And as I say to everyone, the government knows who you are and they know where you are. Don't worry. They're planning to bill you. They're going to bill on a quarterly basis your Medicare premium. Now, you're in because you're still working and you fall into the higher premium brackets, they are probably still calculating how much you're going to have to turn over to them. But you are on Medicare as of February 1st. Just because you haven't paid, the government has probably sent that notice to you in the mail. You just haven't received it yet. You'll pay it as soon as you receive it and some of these bills can be a little bit confusing because they're going to show what you owe versus what you're about to owe. So it can look like you're doubling up on more than 1 month. We're always happy to review those bills, not only for you, Dad, but for anyone else, just so we can give you a little clarity on what you actually owe. But not to worry, the bill is on the way.
Beautiful. Sounds good. Now I'm not going to worry for me or for your mother.
Well, because I happen to know your particular fact situation, and because Mom is on Social Security, hers is going to be debited directly from her Social Security.
And
Amen.
Our next texter writes, I'm 65 years old and not ready to retire yet from my job. Should I elect to take my Social security benefits now or wait till I reach my normal retirement age at 67. I would wait, because if you do decide to take it now while you're still working, you're going to be subject to the take-back rules, and those rules are they take back $1 for every 2 that you earn. Over the updated numbers are 22,340. So if you can keep it under that, maybe it's worth looking at. But if you're above that number, why not let that benefit grow? And why not be subject to having the government take back your money?
That's a great point. You get to allow it to grow, and you also don't have to worry about the take back. What else you don't have to worry about is tuning in to us next week, because we'll be back from 9 to 11 a.m. every Saturday morning. If you'd like to chat with us before then, give us a call, 314-863-0008. See you next week.
Your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more straight talk on retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.